Know where it came from. Somebody gave me the quote that I don't know where it came from. Under pressure, some rocks become dust and others become diamonds. My hope is that we at EIB, through EIB, we can become diamonds under that external pressure. So how do business leaders do that? What's the content? What is the future of work about? Let me suggest 6 things I hear business leaders talking about. I know EIB has done some of this work and others have done it around the world in Europe and Latin America and North America. Number 1, the value of a company is not just its tangible asset, but its intangible asset. Increasingly, the intangibles of brand, of trust, of human capability are critical, not just financial flow. Number 2, as I alluded, there is a new world of technology. Somebody asked me the other day what my avatar was. I'm learning that I get to go create a fake figure that looks different. He's going to be about 30 years younger than me, with more hair and look much better than me. I don't yet have an avatar in Metaverse, but I'm learning. Number 3, the government agency in the United States, and I don't know if this is true in Egypt or not, is requiring human capital disclosures. In the 1930s, decades, a century ago, actually, almost, the government required the Securities Exchange Commission, the SEC, that a company report its financial data, its income statement, balance sheet. So we had general accepted accounting practices. Today, we're starting to get generally accepted human capability practices. Number 4, I talked about the Business Roundtable, ESG, social, governance, climate. The Business Roundtable said we should be company, and they're a group of senior business leaders. We should have profit and purpose. I would change that a bit. I would say profit and through purpose. Number 5 and number 6, we're seeing discussions in business forums like this about culture. All of that has human capability at the center. How do we build human capability? And so I don't know about your bank, but these are things I've seen in the last 2 years that many companies have tried to do. How many of these have you tried in your company? Agile organization, hybrid work, changing the culture, reskilling your workforce, leadership academy. A lot of these initiatives get tried to try to build human capability to respond to these external conditions. And these external conditions of the pandemic, politics, technology, require a different future of work around human capability. But there's a value in a framework. If I'm going to do a diet in yellow, I can do a whole bunch of different diets, but there's 4 basic food groups: fruit, vegetables, dairy, grain, meat. If I'm going to do financial reporting that I talked about, generally accepted accounting principles have a balance sheet, an income statement, cash flow, and shareholder equity. And the whole field has grown around financial reporting. In red, if I'm going to manage risk, there is a study of 4 categories of risk: compliance risk, strategic risk, operational. In social responsibility, the United Nations has identified 17 social development agendas. But in human capability, as an HR professional, our efforts in purple are piecemeal. We do a piece here, a piece there. We do agile work, hybrid work. As a result, our industry does not have the full impact that it might have. Let me share a framework that we have used and tested and studied that defines human capability in any organization. And I'm going to talk to you about that, and then I'm going to organize our discussion about building this human capability inside my bank. In red, and I'm going to use my hands as examples, my fingers represent talent. That's the human capital. That's the human of the human capability. There are initiatives we can do: hire, train, pay our people. In blue, my fist represents the organization. Those are the capabilities, what my organization is good at doing. I play the game with my people. I win the game through my team, my capability, my organization. In green, they come together, my talent and my organization, and that becomes the leader or the leadership. In China, this is a symbol of deep respect. Those 3 things are what I in HR bring to a business discussion to make sure that we have human capability. If I'm in a bank, I say to my business leaders, do we have the right talent? Do we have the right organization? And do we have the right leadership? That question becomes so critical as we try to serve our customers. Do we have the right talent to serve customer? Do we have the right organization and culture? Do we have the right leadership? Those are the three fundamental building blocks, the framework, if you will, of what human capability is. And when we manage those three things well, we be successful. Now, the fourth piece is my forearms. That's human resource effectiveness. So I have talent, organization, leadership, and then my forearms represent HR systems, the staffing, the HR department, the HR practices that I bring, the HR competencies. By the way, let me do something really stupid so that you can remember that. And I can see many of you in the audience. If you could hold up your hands, that's your talent. So if people need to hold up a hand with their fingers. I don't see people doing that. There we go. This is not embarrassing. It's not going to be in a picture. We build talent. We build organization. That's the fist. And we build leadership through HR. That's the forearms. And then you can do the HR wave. You can make yourself look stupid. So that's the stupid HR wave. And I appreciate a couple of people at the front table being willing to engage with me. Now, I make fun of that, but I'm really serious about it. When I'm a human resource professional, I now have a framework. I have a discipline of how human capability can help my company succeed. And all of these items that were confusing are now clear. The red is what I do with my people: diversity, resignation, avoid resignation, employee well-being, skilling. The blue represents the organization, hybrid work, agile organization, culture, collaboration. The green represents leadership, and the purple represents HR. That set of ideas become critical to my being successful as a business or an HR leader. Now, when I was teaching at the university, I asked a final exam question. It's one of my favorite questions. Who has primary accountability and responsibility for the human capability issues within a company? Number one, the line manager. Number two, HR. Number three, it's shared between HR and line. Number four, the consultant. And number five, I don't care, I'm going to study finance. So that was a course for my MBA students. Most people mark number three, responsibility is shared. And I marked it wrong. I believe the primary accountability for human capability, talent, organization, and leadership is the line manager. In a home, you're the builder. You need to be fully committed and model and be accountable and share your time as a business leader to make human capability happen. We turn to our HR professionals as architects who can create frameworks and logic, as coaches who provide counsel and advice, who design and facilitate, and ultimately, in red, every employee is accountable for his or her own capability. So why is that important? Why is that important? Human capability, talent, organization, and leadership is critical because it drives business results. And the job I have to do as a business leader in managing that and as an HR leader starts with benchmarking. How does what I do with talent compare with someone else? How does my leadership compare with someone else? Then we want a best practice. What's the best practice in hiring people, in paying people, in training people? We do comparison studies. Then we do predictive analytics. Why are they the best practice? But what I want to encourage us to do as HR and training leaders in Egyptian banking is in green. How do I connect what I know and do in talent, organization, and leadership to impact? How do I provide guidance so that my bank or financial service company will be successful in our goals? We believe that benchmarking, best practice, and predictive analytics are very helpful, but they lead me to guidance. For example, if I'm going to diet, there's a benchmarking in diet. This is what I should weigh. There's a best practice. Here's what works. There's analytics. Here's why they work. But I need to figure out what works for me. What works for HR or human capability in my company? That begins with results. What are the results I'm trying to accomplish with the employees, their productivity, their attitude, with the business strategy? Am I trying to build a more customer-centric strategy, a digital strategy with customers? What am I doing to drive customer results with financial results, profitability, and community? When I'm in HR sitting down with the business team, I begin the discussion with results. Let me give an example. We teach at the University of Michigan, a 2-week executive program, and someday I hope to see some of you there. We just finished, and a participant was leaving and said, I am so excited to go back because now I have a template or a blueprint or a roadmap or an action plan for building better leadership within my company. And I'm going to go sit down with the business team and share what we should do to build leadership. And I looked at this person and I said, please don't. That's a mistake. And she looked at me and said, how can that be a mistake? That's what you've taught us. I said, that's not what I've taught you. When you sit down with your business leader, do not start with the leadership, talent, or organizational plan. Start with the results. What are the results we're trying to accomplish in this company? Employee results, our productivity, our retention, our attitude. Strategy results. What are we doing to differentiate ourselves in the market? Customer results. What are we doing to get our customer scores and client scores higher? Financial results, our profitability, and community social results. Once the business team has a clarity about those results, then we can connect that to the human capability. So you may want to start by saying in green, I want to build better leadership. I want to make leadership better in my bank so that the results happen. Or I start with the results. I want to get a higher customer share. I want the employee net promoter score to go up. We worked with a bank in Canada. We found that their net promoter score with customers would go up if a couple of things happen. One, if they had at least 4 products with the bank: a savings account, a loan, a car loan, a home loan, a checking account, an automated banking service. If they had 4 products with the bank, they were likely to stay as a customer. We also found that their attitude as a customer, their employee sentiment, their net promoter score, was highly correlated to the employee attitude, which is talent. And in fact, we found that if you could increase talent attitude 10%, that's in red, you would get a 5% increase in employee attitude or in customer attitude. And that would lead to 2.5% increase in profitability. In financial services, talent will increase so that customer increases. And my job in HR is to build the connection between those 2 agendas. If I'm a business leader, I want those stakeholder results because of talent, organization, leadership, and HR, the little wave we did. If I'm in HR, I want to build human capability, talent, organization, leadership, so that I get the results. When we make that connection, human capability becomes critical. I'm going to start by talking about talent. Human capability is critical for today's changing world. We've said that. Now is the time for human capability. I'm going to start by talking about what can we do in talent for us to be successful. But I hope you've got the first takeaway. The first takeaway of impact is when I sit down with a business leader, HR is not about HR. It's about helping my company succeed in the marketplace through the human capability that we build, which is talent, organization, and leadership. And we have to manage all 3 of those. In fact, it's a fascinating question. Talent or organization, which matters more for business results? We've asked that question many times. What we find is that the talent is critical, but the organization is even more critical. So I've got to get the best out of my people, but I've got to create great organizational capabilities. So let's dive into talent as an organizational capability. In yellow, and in red, I want to have the right talent. So here's the assumption. Somebody said the other day, Dave Aldrich said, people are our most important asset. I have said that, and so have every one of you, but I don't agree with it. Our people are our customers' most important asset. The most important thing we can give an employee is an organization that wins in the marketplace. We want to make sure that we hire, train, and develop our people so that our clients or customers have a good experience. As I shared, the employee engagement is correlated to customer engagement between 0.6 and 0.8. And most of that research began in financial institutions. How do I get a client experience to get better? I have a better employee experience. And when I can think about talent as a way to drive client or customer experience, I am going to be more successful. So what does it mean to build better talent? I like simplicity. My PhD decades ago, and I know there are many PhDs in the room, mine is in taxonomy. Because I'm at home, I found it when I started doing sessions. Where is it? This is my dissertation from many, many years ago, and it's called a numerical taxonomy. It's the science of simplicity. How can you identify complex things and make them very simple? I should also confess that decades ago, when I finished my PhD, there was a company that sold them. And so a year later, I got a check for my PhD dissertation for $11.85. That means that I worked for 1 year and got $11.85 for the research. That's not very good. I'm glad things have changed, but I like simplicity. So be simple with me. What can we do to manage talent? Competence in yellow. I bring the right people into the company. They have the ability to do the job. Commitment in blue. They're committed. They're willing to work hard. And contribution in green. They find meaning from the work they do. I alluded before to believe, become, and belong in green. Those three elements are a formula for talent, and they will allow me to make sure that I build better talent. So what are some initiatives that I could do to raise talent and to make talent more effective? Under competence in yellow, A, I could bring the right person into the company. Who do I hire? Who do I source? Where do I find them? Where do I set standards? How do I bring them in? B, with my existing workforce. Number two, I can manage my employee performance today. Rewards, compensation. Three, I can train and develop my people. And many of you are in training and sales and you do the training work. Three, I can manage careers and promotions. Four, communicate, or five, communicate. Six, I encourage diversity, equity. 7 and 8, manage the flow of people, resignation. 9 is commitment. Number in blue, and D, I make sure my employees are committed. And 10 in green is contribution, that they have a great experience. Here's a list of things I could do to manage my talent, the people, my fingers, so that I have a more effective organization. So here's the question. Which of those 10 are most critical? Which of those 10 are most critical? If I'm in HR or training, where should I focus my attention so that I get the results that I need to have? That's an interesting question. Often we try to figure out what we think might be the most impactful based on benchmarking, based on best practice or analytics, but let's get guidance. Which of those 10 things will drive the outcomes I care about the most? By the way, let me just share this as a joke, is the way we sometimes do it. Somebody asked me a while ago, what's the most critical talent practice HR can offer a company? And it was embedded in number 7 and number 8. Place your lowest performing employee in your competitor. So look at an employee who's not performing well and place him or her in your competitor. By the way, that was a joke. That's the way we often make the decision. What I want to encourage us to do as we look forward to human capability having an impact is make a decision with data. This is a complicated chart. Let me walk through it because I'm going to show it a couple of times. Those 10 rows represent these 10 activities. So here's the 10 things I could invest in talent. Number 1, talent acquisition. Number 2, employee performance, develop employees. A is a data set with 609 respondents. It's a beta set. It's not yet the big data set that we'd like. These are the average answers. B, standard deviation. C, D, E, F, and G represent the outcomes. What do I care about? Column C, I care about my employee outcome. I want guidance of what I can give an employee, and down column C, that adds up to 100 points. Column D, strategic outcome, strategic redirection. Column E is customer, financial, and citizenship. We then did statistics to get guidance. Where should I invest to get employee, strategy, customer, financial, and social citizenship outcomes? By the way, if you look down those columns, each adds up to 100 points. Look at the green cells. If I want to drive customer outcomes, the thing I should focus on in column E is talent acquisition, 21 points. Employee engagement, 14. Positive employee experience, 17. Interesting. If I want to drive social citizenship, column G, talent acquisition, communicate with employees, 17, or communication, 17. I now can begin to say where I should focus to drive the outcomes I care about. That's helpful, because if I'm going to drive value and human capability, I need to know where I play in the talent game. Now I want to look at the next. I want to look at organization. Where do I focus in the organization agenda to be successful? What do I do to build a better organization? My people matter. My organization matters even more. In fact, in the research we did, what matters more, great talent or great organization? And our research showed that the organization has more impact on the outcomes than the talent. 4-1. I fight a war with people. I win a war with the team and the organization. In football, and I know many of you love football and soccer throughout Africa, throughout Europe, how often is the leading scorer in the World Cup on the team that wins the World Cup? And the answer is 20% of the time. 80% of the time, it's not the individual talent, the person, it's the team and how well the team plays as a team. That same phenomenon is true in almost every team sport. In basketball, how often is the leading scorer, the best player on the team that wins the championship? 20%. In movies, how often is the leading actor or actress in the movie that wins movie of the year? 20%. I need great talent, but I need even greater organization. Organization matters. It affects what we do in our lives. The clothes I wear, the food I eat, the houses we live in, the buildings, everything we have around us is brought to us by an organization. Decades ago, when I was in graduate school, I took a course called Organizational Behavior. Back then, it was a new idea. And the professor said, Dave, whenever you see an organization where you live, where you work, where you worship, where you play, where your hobbies are, look at that organization and how it affects your life. And then write me a paper. Tell me what you're learning about organizations. Well, that semester, I wrote 15 10-page papers. Every week, I wrote a paper. The organization where I worshiped affected how I think about my spiritual life. The organization where I worked had good and bad. I had to confess I cheated. I was studying English at the time, and I was doing a paper on Shakespeare. And so I wrote a paper on the sources of power, an organizational issue, in King Lear. And I turned it into my English professor, and I turned it into my organizational behavior professor. The English professor said, this is unusual. My organizational behavior professor said, this is great. Keep writing these papers. I became enamored with organizations. So I remember decades ago calling my mother and father and saying, I've changed my career. I'm not going to go to law school. I'm going to study organizational behavior. And they said, what is that? And in English, organizational behavior is OB, organizational behavior. My mother thought I was going to be an attorney or a doctor and study obstetrics and take care of new children. And when I told her that's not what OB was, it was organizational behavior, she was concerned about me. Well, I love to study with you organizations. We've written books. What do you need to do to build the right organization? You can have great talent, but you've got to build a great organization. And here's what we've discovered. I'll move across the top. We used to look at your organization, your bank, in terms of roles and responsibilities. What's the hierarchy? Who has what job title? Who has what position? What's my role? What's my duty? And we'd re engineer the corporation. Then we looked at systems, and we had the 7S model, we had a STAR model, and we aligned our systems. Today, that's called organizational health. And then we started to look at capabilities. What's the capability or what I'm known for and good at doing? And so I wrote a book, and other very thoughtful colleagues have written about how do you build capability, and define my company as a set of capabilities. And a capability is simply what we're known for, what we're good at doing as a company, our personality, if you will. And then we realize those capabilities have to be embedded in the marketplace. The capability I need to be good at has to be a part of the marketplace. So a capability is not just a social requirement or a technical skill. It's not just day to day or long term. It's not just individual, it's organization. What's the capability I'm good at doing? If I'm an HR professional, when I go into an organization, when I go to my business team, do we have the right talent, competence, commitment, and contribution? Do we have the right organizational capability? Do we have an organization that has the ability to get customers to consistently work with them? Let me give an example, and then I'll talk about a tool that you might use as you do it. And I'm going to show pictures because I'm at home and I can show some pictures. This is our son. This is my mother, who's 93. This is her son. That's me. That's my son. And that's our grandson. Our son finished his PhD program about 4 years ago. And when he finished, I said, Michael, what would you like as a gift? And he said, I would like to go to Disneyland. And I said, okay, that's a good gift with his children. He had 4 children at that point. We'll take you. Well, as soon as he said, I want to go to Disneyland, his sister said, I want to go to Disneyland. And his other sister said, I want to go to Disneyland. So we showed up at Disneyland 4 years ago with 16 people. We had 4 families with 8 children. The children were under 8. And our children said to us, we need to stay in a Disneyland property. I don't know by show of hands how many of you have been to Disneyland in France, in Los Angeles, or in Florida. 4 days and 4 nights in a Disney property is very expensive. So we showed up that day, and it's hot. It's not as hot as Egypt. I know there's heat waves going on around the world, but it's hot. It's in the mid 30s with high humidity, and we're going to walk 20,000 steps. And the woman who took this picture with our family said, you have a lovely family. This is the happiest place on earth. And I said to this woman, it's not the happiest place on earth for me. And she said, why not? And I said, because it's 4 nights, 4 families, 3 days, or 4 nights, 5 days at Disney. I'm not going to buy a new car this year. And it's hot, it's sweaty. And she laughed, and we moved on. Well, a day or two later, we're walking around Disneyland. I'm kind of grumpy. And we walked in and we saw Snow White, or the princess. And our granddaughters, who had seen the movies and seen all the Disney princess stories, they turned around when they saw this princess and they said, Grandpa, Grandpa, she's real. And another princess came out, and she's so beautiful. And Grandpa, she loves me. She touches me. She holds me. We're so grateful. Thank you, Grandpa. We love you. Now, the first reaction as parents or grandparents is, oh, that's so wonderful. You love me. That was not my reaction. My reaction is, this is terrible. Why is it terrible? Because we're going to have to come to Disney again. So the next year we did a Disney cruise. Now our family. And this year we happen to celebrate in December, our holiday, our Christmas holiday for our faith. 16 of us now. Actually, now it's 18 of us, 2 more children, showed up at Disney. I still hope to buy a new car. Now, let me just share, what does Disney do that makes them so successful? They have great people. They hire people, they train people, they have a great employee experience. It was wonderful to go around the Disney theme park and just see the incredible enthusiasm of the Disney employees. But they build a great culture. They build a great culture. They have an identity. They want to be known as the happiest place on earth. Culture is not their underlying values, it's the value of those values for me, the client. And I'm willing to pay a lot of money so that my children and grandchildren will have a good experience. You're in a bank. What do we want our customers to know us for? What's the capability we're trying to build? We've identified 12 possible capabilities. What is it we are trying to create as an identity, as a capability in our bank? Is it talent? We have the greatest people ever. That's a good one. We talked about it. Is it agility? We will respond to what you, the client or customer, wants. Is it strategic clarity? We have a clear purpose. We're a company with a value set. Is it customer centricity? We will focus on you. Is it the right culture? Disney has an incredible identity or culture that shapes them. Is it our ability to collaborate and work together? Is it our social responsibility and citizenship to the world? Is it innovation? Number 8. Is it efficiency? 9, accountability, information. What is the capability we want to be good at? If I'm an HR or learning professional, my job is to bundle the HR practices into those capabilities so that we have capabilities. Disney hires people, trains people, pays people to build a culture that causes the customer to come back again and again. So what do we learn? Let's go back to our research. I'm going to show this a few times. The rows represent the capabilities. This is our data. The columns represent the outcomes. In this data, if I want to drive column C, my employee outcomes, I want my employees to be more productive. I want them to have a better attitude. It's not a shock if you look down column C that adds up to 100 points. Talent is the most critical. If I pay attention to capability as our identity as a company, we hire the people that serve our customers the best. I will get that. In column D, if I want to drive a strategic outcome, strategy and clarity of purpose and mission should be my capability. If I want to drive column E, customer, client intention, customer centricity should be my capability. If I want to drive column G, which is fascinating, I want to build social citizenship. We want to be a caring bank. We want to be a financial institution that builds social and community value. Look down column G. I should build social responsibility as my capability. What we build as a capability will show up as an outcome in the marketplace. And my job is to sit down with my business team and say, what are the capabilities that I need to begin to create? Where do we need to go? So we've now given you 2 of the 4 parts of human capability. Do I have the right talent? That's competence, commitment, and contribution. And do I have the right organization? Now what I want to look at is leadership and the combination. How well do I pull together talent and organization into leadership? Do we have a leadership brand or a leadership identity? We have found in our work that there's a lot of great studies of leadership. These are the books we've done about building leadership. But as we try to build leadership as a capability, we start with what we call the leadership code. What's the knowledge, skills, and abilities that a leader should possess? And as a learning or HR professional, my job is to make sure that we have the right competencies that will create value for our customers. That's the leadership brand book. We have the right competencies of leaders that will create value for our employees. That's the Why of Work book. We have the right leadership competence that will create value for our investors. That's the Leadership Capital book. And we have the right competencies that will create leaders for our business and organization strategy. That's the Victory Through Organization book. We want to create leadership that drives results. When we've done our work on leadership, we were tempted to write the subtitle, Imagine if you fly on an airplane. Imagine if you fly. What is it you want from your captain? What is it you want him or her to be good at? Is it how they look? Is it the way they dress? Is it the way they appear? Is it how nice they are? Do they greet every passenger on the airplane? Is it that they keep you informed along your travel route? Is it that they share the strategy of the company in their coat pocket? This is the strategy of the airline, and they can repeat it. No. What I want from my pilot is a result that the takeoffs will equal the landings, that he or she can fly the plane. The attributes matter so that I get the results. When I start with driving the results because of the attributes, my leaders become effective. But it's the results that I know I've got to deliver. We almost subtitled our book on leadership code, I don't care if the pilot didn't bathe today. Because what I care most about is, can the pilot fly the plane? Now, in that work, we love the metaphor of brand. Leaders can focus inside, what are your skills, or outside, what is your celebrity? They can look at individuals or collective. The metaphor of brand is so cool. My father, I don't always get to share this, but it's kind of fun. My children did a book about their great grandpa Ulrich, so that I, as Grandpa Ulrich, can read a book about my father and they get to know him. And I can show you pictures of his life, things that he did. For example, this picture here is behind me in my office. He used to pick up food in a grocery store and take it in his truck. This is my father in his truck, to those who had a need. My father was a great man. By the way, it's awkward to share stories about your family without feeling that emotion again. I am the first one in our family who did a PhD. So when I finished my PhD, my father bought me a gift, and it was a watch. It was a Timex watch. And he essentially said to me, Dave, my dear son, I want you to wear a Timex watch. I want you to wear the Timex watch as a symbol or a brand that I care for you. I care for you. Not because you have a PhD and you've written books and done all these famous things, but I care for you because you're a good son. That watch is now a brand for me. And every once in a while, I look at my Timex watch and I think of my father. That's the value of a brand. By the way, when our son finished, I don't know if it's here. When our son finished his PhD, you can see the picture of our family. There's me with my Timex watch. We bought my son a trip to Disney World and a Timex watch. So he now wears a Timex watch because he knows that that's a brand that we care. Well, inside your company, you want to create a leadership brand. You want to create a brand that helps your leaders have the skills that you promise your clients or customers. Number one, have I built a case for business leadership? Is leadership brand critical to the business success? Number two, have I got a theory of what leaders should know and do? Do I have a clear sense of the skills that our leaders should have? Both of those should focus outside in. Are they building value in the marketplace? I want better leaders so that our customers have a better experience, so that our investors, if we're publicly traded with stock, give our stock a premium. We discovered in our research that about 20 to 25% of the stock price is determined by the quality of leadership. We did a book called Leadership Capital Index. I want to be able to get investors to have confidence in my leaders. Number two, I want to make sure that our leaders have the skills that we promise our clients. We've been working with ad agencies. My bank does a major promotion on social media, on internet, somewhere else. They're promising our clients innovation, product quality, client intimacy, technology. Whatever we promise our clients, we should be training our leaders to know and do. If we promise innovation to our clients, we should have leaders who are innovative and creative. If we promise great technology connection to our clients, we should have leaders who are very good at technology. Number three, we assess leaders in leadership. We are finding that you don't want to just do a 360 against your leaders. You want to do a 720. Get your clients to see how they see your leaders. We invest in leaders. We want our leaders to become better. EIB does great investment through the Egyptian Investment Institute of Banking, but we also want to invest in our leaders with our outside stakeholders. When we're doing leadership training programs, invite in customers, invite in investors to be a part. Let the investors participate in the quality of leadership development. Measure leadership success by how they're seen in the market. And number 6, ultimately build that brand. We have found that those 6 steps will create leadership. And again, back to the assessment. Where should I in HR focus? 6 rows, those are the 6 steps of building leadership. What will drive the employee outcome? The strategy, E, the customer, F, finance, and G, social citizenship. It's fascinating. It's the business case. Can I create a business case for leadership? When I'm sitting and the woman leaves our executive program at the University of Michigan, she has a roadmap or a blueprint for upgrading the quality of leadership in her company. When she sits down with the business team, what's the business agenda we're trying to create as a company? Innovation, client service, client centricity, technology. Here is the business case of how leadership will make that happen. And when she can make that business case, we will build more effective leadership. Guess what? We've now talked about talent, organization, leadership. My final 12 or 14 minutes, how do I build HR? If I'm a business leader, what do I want from my HR professionals? You know, before I do that, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. 30 seconds. I can see the tables. I've talked a long time. By yourself, what have you heard so far about human capability, talent, organization, or leadership that might help you? I'm going to give you 1 minute. Just write something down. I was in a group of college students recently. They said, write something down. I don't write. I only have notepads, but take a note. What have you heard so far that might be helpful for you? And then I'm going to do the last 12 minutes on HR. You got 60 seconds. What did I hear that might be helpful for me in building human capability? Again, if you're having trouble coming up with an idea, steal something from somebody at your table. Ask them what they heard and get their idea. About 20 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. By the way, I do that simply because the goal of my talk is not just to give you ideas and research and practices and a few stories that anchor them, but I want those ideas to have impact for you. And we'll have time for questions in a minute. For me, one of the meta messages is, number 1, HR is not about HR. It's about success in the marketplace through human capability. Talent, that's getting the best out of our people. If I go back to this framework, talent is competence, commitment. Organization is the capability, the workplace, leadership. My job in HR is to use talent, organization, and leadership so that we are successful in the marketplace. And now I come to HR. What can I do in HR to succeed? We've written a lot of books about the HR revolution and the function and department of HR. That book it talks about criteria. Out of that, we have identified 9 things that a successful HR department should have. By the way, if you add a 10th or 11th, nobody's going to disagree with you. But here's the 9 things that we think a good HR department should have based on our research. 1 is a good reputation. What are we known for by our stakeholders? 2, a sense of customers who we serve, both the employees inside the company and the clients outside. Number three, a clear statement of purpose, a mission, a vision. Why do we exist? Number four, a good HR design. How are we organized? How do our specialists and generalists work together? Number five, human capability. What we talked about, how do I bring talent, organization, and leadership to the business success? Number six, analytics, the guidance we've been talking about to make decisions. Number seven, innovative HR practices in staffing and training and development. Number eight, great HR people. And I'll talk about that. And number nine, a great set of relationships, how we work together. If you're doing an assessment of your HR department, these are the 9 things that we think you as a department should be good at. Why do I highlight the green and the yellow? Most HR departments we work with focus on the green. Let's redesign the HR department. Let's transform it. Let's get our specialists working with our generalists, centers of expertise, business partners, etc. You know what we found? That's not the most critical. Here's the same template I've given you before. By now, you're getting a little more comfortable with it. These are the 9 rows. These are the outcomes. Look at the 2 that get the most green cells. If I want to build a great HR department, there's 2 things I should focus on. One is my reputation. What is it we as an HR department are known for? That's the first row. That reputation begins to say, we've got to evolve our identity. We don't want to just be known in the first row for efficiency or practices, but for creating value outside in the marketplace. Why are people coming to the training program? To be successful in the marketplace. That reputation of outside in shapes the way we think and the way we act. It causes us to be involved in training with investors, with customers. Let me tell a quick story about the importance of that logic. A company in Southeast Asia, one of the big companies, I won't name the country or the company, had a senior leader who was the founder of the company in his late 70s. He knows he's about to go, and he knows he's got to build the next generation of leadership. So he built an incredible leadership training center, one of the most gorgeous facilities ever in the world in the last few years. He spent 400 million US dollars. That's an enormous amount of money. 400 million. He hired a head of learning, a head of training, happened to be a PhD. And he said to her, you now get to run this center. And he said, the first assignment I'm going to give you is to show the market or the cost benefit of this training center. She called me and said, Dave, he spent $400 million on the training center. How do I show a cost benefit? If leaders, and some of you in the learning and training area, just your stomach sinks. If they improve their productivity 10% by our training programs, and we put 100 leaders a year or 500 leaders a year, it'll take 95 years to get a cost benefit. She said, how do I do that? And I said, think outside in. What's the market value of this company? And the market value of that company was 15 billion US dollars. And I said, so here's your challenge as a head of learning or training. How do I give my investors a 4% premium on the value of the company? For the same earnings, how do I give them a 4% premium? 4% of 15 billion is 600 billion. If my investors can get a 4% premium on the value of the company, I've got 600 million in value and I spent 400 million in the training center. Now, it's not quite that clean, but that logic is what those of you in training and sales should be focused on. It's not the day-to-day productivity, it's the value of customers outside in the reputation. The other item that showed high in our research is relationships. Look at number 9. We want to have great relationships among the HR people and HR and employees and HR and business leaders. By the way, all of these scored higher than row 4, the design of the HR department. The design of the HR department in this list is not as critical, that's in green, as the reputation and the relationships. I want to build HR as a department. Now, my final piece of my puzzle to help you be more effective in HR, and I hope you have questions and comments and takeaways, is the HR competencies, HR competence study. Over the last 35 years, we've studied the skills and knowledge for HR people to be successful. We've got data now from 120,000 people. We've got 5 dissertations, lots of books, lots of articles. In the last round of research, we collected data from about 28,000 people, 29,000 people. We did a 360 where somebody would rate your skill set as an HR professional in over 1,000 companies. It's a good data set. This is what we found overall, and then I'll be specific. We found that there are 5 critical competencies for you to be effective as an HR professional. Notice this data was collected in 2021 in the middle of the pandemic. So it's a time when there's enormous stress on HR. The major thing we found was that you've got to shift the metaphor of a noun to a verb. In the 35 years of studies across the bottom here, we always had the competencies of HR: business partner, partner is a noun; credible activist, activist is a noun; change agent, agent is a noun; paradox navigator, navigator is a noun, it's a role. Now we focus on 5 verbs: accelerate, advance, mobilize, foster, simplify. And then we can tell you what you have to do to be good as an HR professional. Accelerate the business. Make business happen. Advance human capability. Those are the anchors in green. And human capability is with insights around talent, organization, and leadership. In blue, mobilize information. Bring statistics, bring data, bring evidence, as well as observation. At the bottom, foster collaboration. Make sure that we build relationships. That trust, that relationships is so key. Simplify complexity. Make a complex world simple so that we can respond with focus. Those are the 5 skills of HR. Woo! I've gone 57 minutes and I've covered a lot. My goal is to give you ideas that will have impact. Let me talk about the impact and suggest where you might go, and then hopefully get questions. The first idea is now is the time. Do you recognize, and I recognize, the importance of human capability, talent, organization, leadership to respond to the business context? Our research that we haven't even published yet shows that companies that have higher human capability have higher employee productivity, higher financial results, higher strategic results, and higher social responsibility. So what do? Number 2, get the best out of your people. That's my talent, my fingers. Competence, commitment, and contribution. Make sure that our people are doing a great job. Next, improve my fists, my capabilities. Like Disney, create the right capability, the right culture. Audit, define them, build them so that our customer gets value. And then 4th, build a leadership brand. Go through the steps of creating leadership so that leaders exist at every level of the company. And finally, most critical, my forearms. This is very simple. Upgrade my HR department, build relationships, and manage the skills to be a great HR professional. That's what I see. I've covered a lot. Again, you can get copies. I hope there are takeaways that you heard and questions you've got that will help you be effective. And my last slide, and then we'll go to the questions and the takeaways. The best is yet ahead. In the financial sector in Egypt, with EIB support throughout Africa, throughout the Mideast, throughout Asia, throughout Latin America, throughout the United States, throughout North America, throughout Europe, the best is yet ahead when we compete through human capability. I said you could get a copy of the slides. That's always a question. If you want a copy, you can get an access. I'll leave that up, and I hope you'll follow me on LinkedIn. And I post on LinkedIn every week. And if you have questions or comments, never hesitate to get a hold of me that we can go forward. With that, thank you so much for the opportunity. Let's turn to questions and comments. I'll turn it over to you. I'll just leave this up for another moment so you can get copies of a QR code if you choose. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Ulrich. Thank you very much, Dr. Ulrich, for this insightful presentation. And let us open the floor for a couple of questions. Any questions?
So I'm going to ask, may I ask a question, especially those who are online, to put into chat, or those at the table? Let me go back. Could people spend a minute at the table? What's something you heard that will help you be more effective? And I wonder if I may start with a question. And then if people can just say, what did I hear that might help me be more effective? So if you could get an answer in the next 60 seconds. I am really embarrassed. I forgot the name of the woman moderating. I'm getting old. I so apologize.
My name is Zainab.
Thank you. So let's give people 60 seconds and then let them tell me what they've learned, and then we'll get some questions. So put in chat if you're online, what's one thing you heard that you could take away? And at a table, just have a 60-second discussion, and then we'll get some comments. Thank you.
This is something that you've learned. One word that you've learned.
One word or one idea. Thank you.
5 new competencies of HR. This is the first comment.
Got it.
Again.
Whatever promise we give to customers, we have to train our leaders on.
Great idea. You know, by the way, that's so obvious, because if we promise a customer service, but our leader isn't trained to give good service, it doesn't make sense. And yet we don't connect the two. Thank you. I should just listen. Let me just listen. This is very helpful.
Also, start from the results.
Got it. Thank you. Any items in chat or any other items from the tables?
Yeah.
I say our people are our most important assets. Customer, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
What else?
How to create a leadership brand.
Leadership brand. What else?
To engage our employee to build our values and culture.
Engage employees to build values and culture.
Should I go next?
Yes.
HR reputation.
Hmm?
HR reputation. It's the credibility of HR. So it's all about HR reputation as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Questions? Let us open the floor for questions.
By the way, let me make a comment on those questions. Thank you. It feels like I've done a better job teaching here than I did at the university for 2 weeks, because the meta message is outside in. Values defined by the receiver more than the giver. It's not what I do in HR, it's what somebody gets because of what I do. I've got to show one more picture, one more family. This is my beautiful wife. I just have to show that. When I give her a gift, she's the one who defines the value of the gift. So in HR, it's not what I train, it's what training does to create value for someone else. And I hope we can get that idea that I want to begin to do outside in to create value for others through the HR work that I do. Thank you. That's the results, that's the customer, that's the value of values. It's not that I have values, it's that my values create value for others. That's Disney. So that's just, if I can get that message across, we do HR work so that we are successful in the marketplace, we will begin to change the world of HR in a positive way. So thank you for letting me reinforce that message, and thank you for hearing it. When I go back to a business team, I want to start with the results that we want to create. Okay, questions or comments? This is now open to questions that you might have, either online or or in person?
Okay, here's our first question.
Thank you so much for your rich session. It has lots of books, which really ignited a feeling inside me that we need to get more oriented into the HR service. You know, we need to learn more. And that's the message that I got from you now. Although definitely there are three major components that make a successful organization, which is the talent, the organization, and the leadership. And there are three forces that drive the success of the organization in the market. Still, I can see that the HR reputation is one of the main driver within the organization to make the successful story. And the other input I got from you really, which is very insightful for me, which is training the leaders to walk the talk and talk the walk. By if they are serving the customers, then they need to learn how to serve the customers themselves. So there is a need for training the leaders as well as the talent as well, building the capacities inside the organization. Thank you so much, really appreciate it.
Thank you. I sort of wonder now why I spent 60 minutes giving a talk that you just gave in 90 seconds. In 90 seconds, you covered everything I spent 60 minutes talking about. You did a great job. Thank you. What a great summary of
Mr.
that.
Hanafi, thank you, Dr.
Thank
Dave. Questions?
Sir, I just want your input on two key questions. Given the opportunity, the importance that you emphasized on the organization and how important is it, I need to have your specific feedback about how can we build a structured organization in the banking and financial sector while maintaining agility at the same time? How do you see this in the coming challenges posed to coronavirus and the current situation that we're in? This is number one. Number two, if you allow me another question.
May I answer the first one, because I won't be able to remember two. So the first one, let me thank you, by the way. First of all, I am not an expert on the financial sector in Egypt. I would, if I claimed to be, I would lose credibility. You're the expert. I know something about organizations. Let me answer that question with a push and then a very specific. I think the structure of an organization, the hierarchy, is less relevant than the capability. And so when you start by saying build a structure, I would say change that. You want to build an organization as capability. For example, if I say, do you admire Unilever? Do you admire, pick a big company in the world, IBM? Do you admire HSBC? Yes. How many levels of management do they have? I have no clue. I don't care. That's not why I admire Amazon or Apple. I admire them because what they're good at. So to build on that, the capability you want to build in the financial sector is agility. I want to create agility because that's going to allow us to succeed in the marketplace. Let me suggest agility requires four things. Focusing on the future. In fact, I gave a talk last night in India on a blueprint for agility. If you're interested, get a hold of me through EIB and I'll send you the presentation. I've got to focus my financial services sector on the future, not the past. I don't care about what I've done to build agility. Number two, I've got to anticipate opportunity. I've got to look at where I can focus to get agility to happen. Number three, I've got to learn. I've got to fail and I've got to learn. And number four, I've got to move quickly. Those are the four principles of agility. And I can apply that to my organization. I can build an agile organization like the Scrum team in rugby is the example that gets used. We did a book on how do you build this kind of new organization. I can apply that to my strategy, to my people. So my long answer is I would not focus on structure, but I would focus on capability. And the capability of agility is critical by focusing on those four things: the future, the opportunity, the learning, and the speed. That's what I would see to help build agility. I hope that's helpful for your first question. And now the second one.
The second is about performance management in the context of the human capability model that you see. Are you for the structured rating-based kind of performance or the non-rating kind of performance? Because this is a long discussion that, yeah.
And again, I'm going to push back a little bit. There are three consistent steps in performance management. Number one, what's expected? That's the step. How am I doing? And what's the consequence? That's the rewards. Traditionally, that's the three. What's expected? What's the standards? How do I measure? Do I do a forced ranking? Do I do a rating? And number three, if I meet that standard, does something good happen to me financially or not? And I'm going to suggest that's the wrong question. Here's what we've discovered. The key to a successful performance management system is not what's expected, how am I doing, and what do I get if I do it well? The key is the conversation between the boss and the employee. I worked in a company in the Gulf States, a large company, I don't think I need to name it. They had tried to upgrade their performance management system. It was not in financial services. And they had tried a lot of things. They did management by objectives, and it didn't work. They did what they called key result area program to manage performance. By the way, key result area program in English stands for KRAP, crap. It's not a shock. It didn't work either. Then they did a forced ranking. Then they did a rating system. Then they did a 9-box. After about 5 efforts, they called me and said, we've tried all of these performance management systems and they don't work. Why? And I said, it's not the system, it's the conversation. Can a business leader have a conversation with his or her employees about their performance? And when you can have a good conversation, it doesn't matter what the system is. Have a good conversation. And so they said, what's a good conversation? Again, I love simplicity. 3 things. Help me understand. Number 2, the data. And number 3, so we can get better. So we trained their business leaders at all levels of the companies to sit down with their employees. And again, it somewhat depends, the ranking versus the rating. We can get debates about that. But I sit with an employee, help me understand your performance, the data, so that we can improve. When you can have that conversation with an employee, you can rate or you can rank. And either one's going to help you be more successful. So I'd encourage you to focus on the conversation more than the system.
Thank you. Other question? Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Regarding the model that you explained between organization, leadership, and talent. Now, the tips and tricks of building a leadership identity that actually cares for talent and build in a continuous improvement system to make everybody succeed or to achieve that model. While you're making it so simple with your hand, it doesn't really fit that way in reality. So I'm asking for tips and tricks to make the leadership is actually concerned to build that talent and build the organization capabilities as well. Thank you.
Again, I love simplicity and the other side of complexity, but I'm willing to go deep. We have found, and there's 2 ways to answer that. Let me suggest that we're finding, especially in COVID, that leaders need to become caregivers. They need to care about their people. They need to have compassion. They need to have care. They need to have concern. That becomes a critical part of their success as a leader. We've identified 4 E's that leaders can do. And now let me get much more complex and specific. 1, empathy. Empathize with your employees. 2, build energy with your employees. Make sure you have energy. 3, show emotion, be vulnerable, share the emotion. And 4, make sure your employee has a great experience. So emotion, empathy, experience, and energy are the E's that a leader needs to give their employees. How do you do that? It's really hard to do remotely. In the work on leadership, Tom Peters and Bob Waterman did work managing by wandering around. You wander around, you see your employees, you touch them, and you spend the time with them. In a remote world, that's hard to do. You can't wander around. You don't want employees showing their cameras in their personal life. So we have leaders who do check-ins. Once a week, I'm going to check in with my employee for 10 minutes, not about work. I'm going to be empathetic. How are you? I'm going to show emotion. How are you feeling? I'm going to help you have an experience. How is your work life going? How is your personal life? And I'm going to try to instill within you a set of energy. We have found that when leaders connect with their people in those ways, they tend to be more successful. And the headline of that is there's a caregiving aspect of leadership. Now, let me go to the second question. We have also found that about 20% of leaders are already doing this. They are exceptional leaders. About 20% of leaders will probably not be able to do it because they've never seen it. They don't know how to do it. And most leaders are in the 60% in the middle. If I'm an HR professional, I ignore the best 20% because they're doing great work. Don't get in their way. I also don't spend as much time with the bottom 20%. There isn't a lot I can do with them because they're just not going to be able to change as well. But I really focus on the 60%. How do I give those leaders the skills to provide their employees the skills of empathy and energy and passion and emotion so that they can help their employees be better? That's what we have found with some of our leadership work. Again, I can dive as deep as you want to go. Leaders also have to instill confidence in the future. They've got to create execution. They've got to build the next generation. I'm going to do one other tip that I love the tips, and I love your comment. These are tips. What's the best thing a leader can do with how do I know somebody is a great leader? Let me say it a different way. How do I know somebody's a good leader? We have research, we have statistics, we have 360s. Here's my favorite test. Do I leave my experience with that leader feeling better or worse about myself? Let me say that again. I just had an interaction with somebody. There's a gentleman in a red shirt sitting in the middle of the room. We just had a 90-second interaction where he summarized some of the session I did. Sir, I don't know who you are. I see you in the red shirt because you stand out. I left that 90 seconds. Oh, now you stand up. Now you should shout out. No, don't shout. Don't shout. I left that 90-second interaction feeling better about myself because you covered the material I covered. For that 90 seconds, you were a good leader. So to the man who just asked the question, I love to say to leaders, are people leaving their interaction with you feeling better or worse about themselves? Now, let me link that back to performance management. What makes a good conversation? Do you leave the interaction with the leader feeling better or worse about yourself? A final quick story, and I'm sorry, I'm getting off on this. I just love the specifics that I get to do in these questions. I'm coaching a leader at a very senior level of a company. An employee of his makes a terrible mistake that's going to cost the company literally millions of dollars. So it's a very senior leader. This company is very direct, very aggressive, and they often put things in writing. And here is what he was going to write to his employee. You made a terrible mistake that cost us millions of dollars. If you don't change, you will be fired. Since I'm coaching this leader, I said, you must come to me. Please come to me before you send out any notes. I looked at his note and I said, let me add 3 things. I care about you. You have great potential at this company. You made a terrible mistake. It's costing us millions of dollars. How can we learn from that mistake so that you get better? Now, notice what I tried to do in performance management. I didn't walk away from you made a mistake and it cost us money. But at the front end, I care about you. You have great potential. And in the back end, let us learn. Suddenly, there's a conversation that focuses on the future and success, not just on pointing out what's wrong. That's where I hope we can get leaders to show that energy and empathy and an example of what that looks like in a conversation in performance management. Thank you for the comment and question.
Thank you.
Professor Dave, first of all, let me say that I'm one of your big fans and I've read some of your books. I've attended some of your webinars, so it's an honor to have you with us here today. I have two questions actually. The first one is the time element. How long it would take us to improve or to change the human and the organizational capability? Is there a benchmark or a research about this, or I mean the time element overall? This is my first question.
Let me give you the rule of thumb. People love to say you can do this in 60 days, 90 days. First of all, it's tied to the cycle time of changing a product in your company. If you're in the financial services sector, how long would it take to introduce a new credit card or a new loan? Whatever that cycle is, figure 1.5 to 2 times for the organization. For example, I'm working in a company that is making paper. So they're building trees. It takes 20 years to build a tree. It's going to take decades to change that culture. I'm working in another company that created the tests for COVID. They were the PCR test company. Their cycle time was 60 days to create a new test for PCR. Their time is going to be 120 days. So I would ask you to look at 1.5 to 2 times the strategic or product cycle time of whatever business you're in. So it's not a fixed time. It's tied to the mindset of agility within the company where you work.
Great. My second question, actually, as I mentioned, that I've attended some of your webinars and I've seen the pictures behind you. I always wanted to ask you, what is the story behind the picture of Sheikh Zayed?
Thank you for asking. Behind me are pictures of people in my life who've made a difference. There's a picture of family, our daughter's wedding. There's a picture of Martin Luther King, an activist in America who shaped the American idea of equality. There's the picture I showed in this little book of my father picking up food for homeless. My wife wonders where her picture is, and I tell her picture is in my heart. But I was introduced to Abu Dhabi and the UAE about 20 years ago. And when I went there, often individuals who acquire great affluence, and you've seen this, they misuse it. They use it for themselves. They use it in a way that's self-serving and self-interest. And we've seen that in countries where the oil or other natural resources. When I heard the story of Sheikh Zayed, I was touched. This is one of the most remarkable human beings in the last 50 years in our lives. From what I've gathered in Abu Dhabi and the UAE, he gave every citizen a piece of land for their home and a piece of land for their business. He continued to live in the country. He continued to be a Bedouin, even he had wealth. I think his model of leadership is the iconic model of leadership. Leadership is not about who you are. It's about how you create the next generation. And I believe that Sheikh Zayed is one of the exemplars. He's not as well known in the West, and many of you have studied in the West or lived or been in the West. But I think his work in forming the UAE out of all of these tribes around serving others is one of the best I've ever seen. And that's something I believe in. That's why I see that picture in my office.
Great, thank you.
By the way, I hope that's okay. I hope you're a fan of Sheikh Zayed.
Yeah. We all like him. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Dave. This was really insightful and very thorough information. Thank you very much, and looking forward for more cooperation in the future. Thank you very much. On behalf of ABI, I thank you very much, really.
Thank you.